Europe is running out of electricity, and to say it mildly, Europe is on its way to a widespread energy crisis, and there are a few reasons why this is happening, some of which could have been prevented and others were simply too unlikely to even be considered at the time. The best way to understand these crises is by first understanding the primary source of heating in European homes, which is gas. The reason is that gas is a convenient way to heat European homes and help them withstand the -12 to -30 degrees Celsius nights they endure over the winter. So what's the problem with gas? In 4 homes across the continent are now having to choose between heating and food. 44 million Europeans have stated that they can't afford to adequately heat their homes, while 31 to 50 million are classified as living under energy poverty. That is often described as the inability to keep homes adequately warm. So gas is expensive, but why is it expensive? And why did Europe choose it as the primary source of heating? The entire continent is in that crisis, and the 27 member states of the European Union plus Great Britain are scrambling to deal with this issue. That's been years in the making. Governments in Spain and France have resorted to tax cuts on energy and handing out subsidies to vulnerable households. Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi has pledged $5.5 billion to offset the burden for households and businesses. Sweden even vowed to ease the strain for 1.8 million homes. But home dysfunctions as no more than a bandage on the bigger issue. There is a perfect storm brewing in Europe's energy sector. Europe to be in has bad shape as their several things had to go wrong. They did the first thing to go wrong was the unpredictable health crisis and its consequences. When the wells shut down, businesses and industries did the same. Maintenance for gas fields and pipelines decreased, as stay-home orders meant that only a select few could work on site at a time. Coal mining was nearly impossible, stunting the extraction of fossil fuels. Therefore, we had less demand. As a result, primary energy consumption fell by 4.5% in 2020, which is the largest decline since 1945. Now the problem with reducing our energy consumption is not the reduction itself, but the inevitable surge in demand that comes afterwards. Europe has a very unique challenge. It has vowed to radically reduce its fossil fuel use. This is a major challenge because you can't ramp up production of renewable energy sources as quickly as you can with fossil fuels. Europe is in a terribly disadvantaged position because as soon as demands increase, you have to find something that can be supplied. The EU has been admirably intentional about reaching its common goal of being the first climate-neutral continent by 2050. 9 EU member states, including Belgium and Sweden, are now completely coal-free, with Sweden closing its last plant in 2020. Clean energy accounted for 2/3 of the EU's energy generation. Renewables, like wind, solar, and hydropower, took up 39% of generation, while nuclear, which is cleaner than traditional fossil fuels, took up 27%. This is an increase from 2019's figures, as coal-generated energy dropped to 14%. On New Year's Eve 2021, the Proctor of Grunder, the Gundramming C nuclear reactors were decommissioned as Germany said goodbye to 3 of its nuclear power stations. The remaining 3 planes to shut down by the end of 2022. 12% of the nation's electricity will be no more. This means a very reliable source of energy that can easily be turned up or down depending on demand has been taken out of the equation. So what did Germany do to fill this void of sudden energy needs? What is the easiest way to meet energy demands when you don't have a plan? Natural gas, of course. The Netherlands, Europe's biggest source of natural gas after Russia, leaves the trade. They started shutting down their massive natural gas field, Groningen, back in 2018, with full disclosure scheduled for 2022. Even the UK reduced its natural gas supply when in 2017, Centrocard shut down, the region's largest natural gas storage facility, after it was deemed unsafe and unprofitable. You can see where to go when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine. Energy has to come from elsewhere, and when it can't come from Europe itself, it has to be imported. This is the biggest issue with renewable energy reliability. Renewables are newer, harder to store, and are so irregular that they're not at the level where they can handle the changing demands that gas, coal, and nuclear meet. You can't just turn a dial and increase energy generation. You're at the mercy of Mother Nature. How does the EU meet its energy needs instead? Well, in 2019, the EU imported nearly 90% of its natural gas from outside the bloc. This 90% is split up between some key players. Russia dominates at 43%, Norway follows with 23%, Algeria, the UK and US round things out with 12%, 5.5%, and 5% respectively. Having a single country account for such a large share is worrying. Europe has to face an even bigger crisis than it is currently. The EU has turned towards importing liquid natural gas, or LNG for short, in October 2021. 49 US tankers carrying LNG were bought in to offset this imbalance and tried to keep the current energy crisis under control. The problem with LNG is that competition is fierce from other large countries and continents whose economics are picking up at a rapid pace. Take China, for instance. They've been buying LNG for the past 5 years to clean up their controversially filthy air. This means Europe is often outbid for LNG, which naturally drives the prices higher and makes it a far worse option. It's fair to assume that the EU was banking on moderately diplomatic relations with Russia and increased use of renewable sources to offset the absence of nuclear and coal. But the Russia reduced gas flows into Europe through the state-controlled gas problem by 25%. Many saw it as a political move that would put pressure on Berlin and the EU to approve Putin's dream project, the Nord Stream 2. This ambitious and highly controversial Russian plan is 10 years in the making. It consists of a 1230-kilometer pipeline that flows through the Baltic Sea from Ust-Luga here in Russia to Lovman all the way here in Germany. The project was completed in 2021, but Berlin has yet to hand out the final necessary permits. So the problem is that Nord Stream 2 doesn't line up with the EU's climate goals, and more than that, it's put more power into Russia's hands. During a politically tense time, the Ukraine-Russia crisis is at the center of most European geopolitical struggles, and with good reason. But it also affects the energy crisis directly. If the Nord Stream 2 project isn't accepted, there's a fear that Russia might switch off the gas taps, or worse, if the Kremlin faces further sanctions over their activities towards Ukraine, that it is currently invading Europe's main gas supplier would be cut off. Russia is the only gas source. Take a look at Latvia and the Czech Republic. 100 of their natural gas comes from Moscow. Hungary follows with 94%, while Slovakia and Bulgaria depends on 85.4% and 72.2% respectively. These guys simply can't afford a heavy energy sanction on Russia. So, all in all, it's a pretty triggering situation, and most leaders and countries are at the mercy of nature and hoping for an early summer.